followed up since after the last announcements. So we made last two announcements. I can broadly give you a picture of where they stand and how many are being followed up. So in my today's presentation, as always, I'll just give you a brief picture of what I'm presenting before you. I want to start with a very brief picture of the macroeconomic fundamentals that we have now before us, and also say if there are any signs of revival from some sectors, then move over to say about the measures which are being followed up since after the last two announcements, and then commence by saying the tax related essentially implementation of taxation related measures, just so this issue of getting technology into tax assessments, steps taken so that the sense that tax authorities are overreaching is clearly wiped out of the minds, because we have made quite a lot of concrete steps in that direction. So I'll give a couple of slides on that, and then move over to talking about what we want to do for the exports of this country. Today we'll be focusing on the exports, and then the second is on the home buyers. So today's flow would be, one, I'm talking about the macroeconomic fundamentals, then looking at where the revival signs are in particular segments, then looking at the tax related reform measures, then fourth go over to the two segments that we are addressing with some kind of input coming from the government, one of exports at large and also of the home buyers. So if I go through that, you got before you on the slide there as to what is the position on the consumer price index, the inflation particularly, which is being kept very much below and under control. So technically you would know between 2.5 to 3 to about 4 is the bandwidth which all of us are normally considered safe, because we've kept a top limit of 4. But between 3 and 6 would be any time better, but even then the inflation has always been held well before under 4. So one of the very strong indicator for an economy is the level to which the inflation has been held. So that is the first slide, and the second one also tells you about the flow with which it went. Moving over to the industrial production, in spite of all the worries that industrial production indicators showed in the fourth quarter of 18-19, because it reached a level which was fairly concerning most of us, we see a clear sign of revival in the first quarter of 19-20 and on the second quarter, not really the second quarter, but up to July end. So that straight arrow explains that the revival signs are very, very consistent. Then that is also shown in the core industries. The July figures, which were released only a couple of days ago, probably would explain that. The revival of fixed investment is also very clearly showing a positive picture. Between 17-18 and 18-19, if you compare year on year, the annual fixed investment rate as a percentage of GDP, you can see the bar chart there, and also for the quarter-wise fixed investment rate is going upwards, and you can see that it is in the first quarter 19-20 shown a clear, distinct positive upward growth. Then we move over to the fiscal deficit and the contained CAD. The fiscal deficit to GDP ratio, which was well known from the time the July budget was presented, and we've kept up the figures. The current account deficit, of course, shows a bit of a hike in 18-19, but that is the background for one of the indicators of the macroeconomic factors. Then you go over to the FDI flows, on which there has been a lot of discussion. We can very clearly see that the numbers between, if you compare between 14-15 going upward, 15-16, 16-17 and so on, you can see between 18-19 and 19-20 as of now, there is a clear sign of revival, and the reserves, of course, particularly at August end, has really gone up, as a result of which we have one of the best level of reserve which is being maintained now. I'll quickly move over, as I said earlier, on what are the kind of follow-up we've made on the announcements that we've made twice before. Announcements were made on 23rd August and again on the 30th of August regarding series of measures that we took. I had reported implementation of 6 of the 32 announcements relating essentially to banking. That was on 23rd August. The partial credit guarantee scheme for banks to buy assets of NBFCs has been implemented. There are several NBFCs who have already benefited. We'll be probably giving you a more detailed picture as we go along, if not today, some other time, but the NBFCs are really receiving the benefits of that partial credit guarantee scheme that was announced. Then there is definitely an increased and improved credit outflows from banks. The transmission of interest rate cuts are being affected by banks also. Just for your information, at this stage, I would like to tell you that on 19th of September, a day before the GST Council's meeting, I shall be meeting with all the PSB heads and talking to them in detail about how the credit flow system is going on, post our announcing partial credit guarantee scheme, and post our infusing more money into the banks. So on the 19th, specifically for this particular agenda, I shall be meeting up with the chiefs of the public sector banks. Then this is where I start telling you all about the infusion of more technology towards better assessment process, where human interface will be cut down to the bare minimum. So the notification for the e-assessment scheme, which I had earlier announced, saying it will be implemented from Vijayadashmi Day, has already been notified. So on 12/9/2019, the e-assessment scheme has already been notified, and the main features of it are something which I would want you to please listen to with intent. Removal of existing human interface in the assessment procedure will be the first feature. Total removal of human interface. Assessment to be handled by specific functional units on the basis of automated allocation system. The allocation will happen completely automated by the big data management team, so there is no human discretion element into that. Assessment unit will also be anonymous. All communication to be made exclusively in the electronic mode only, and no personal appearance of any SSA at all. So with this major one step forward, we feel any element of discretion leading to harassment will all be removed, and we will give good attention to its effective implementation. This was something which was already announced, the document identification number. The particular point which was, the order was issued as of 14th August, but with 1 month of implementation, we are able to say that this is really taking off, in that all notices, summons and orders, communication to be issued only through the system. So there is no one-to-one personally handing out a kind of notice. It will be through the system generated with a particular document identification number. All documents to have unique DIN. Validation of documents issued can be done on e-filing portal only. Documents without DIN can be treated as non-est, meaning in law it won't hold any good. This was announced, much was spoken about it. I'm not saying this is new, but I'm definitely saying post the notification in August, we have seen a month full of this happening. There's already a lot of people who are receiving this, and there is a certain element of recognizing discretion will now be out. Then the nomenclature which was given, I do not know from where, but Sabka Vishwas, the compounding of all past offences, which was partly announced in the budget. The circular has been issued as of 9th of September. What does this imply? It implies that all compounding application can be filed up to 31st December 2019, which were not filed within prescribed time schedule earlier. So anyone who wishes to have their application given can still give it till December, and there is a clear formatted tick box method of clearing all the past offences and settling for a pre-decided levels of penalty. Again, no discretion here. This will reduce the existing pendency of prosecution cases before the courts. So this settlement will remove the need for people to go to the courts to seek redressal. Follow-up action again on prosecution easing measures. Again, a circular has been issued on the 9th of September, and this will have these following features. Smaller taxpayers with minor procedural defaults will not be prosecuted. We had mentioned this, but the notification and the circular has come out on the 9th of September. Prosecution to be launched only in deserving cases and to be commensurate to the degree of offence. So this fear of everybody is being prosecuted, criminal action is being taken, is now completely removed where it is possible, particularly for small taxpayer. Procedurally, small errors, technical errors will now be seen as small offences which need not go through the route of prosecution. For defaults below 25 lakhs, prosecution shall be sanctioned only with the prior approval of a collegium of 2 CCIT or DGIT rank officers. So it's not going to be automatically somebody decides to take action, he takes action. Now the collegium will have to give an approval. It will consist of 2 people, top level officials. Now I go to the 2 main focus area of today, the exports, boosting of exports, and measures that we want to take in order to boost exports. This might need a bit of narration, but steps which have been taken so far so that you understand the background with which the newer steps which are coming so that the whole measures that have been taken this far will become far more effective. You see that the interest equalization scheme had existed between from 2015, and some kind of an interest equalization to the level of 3% to exporters, and particularly for about 416 lines and for all the MSMEs were given, and this had continued from 2015. Then the IAS rate, interest equalization scheme rate was increased to 5% for MSME exporters with effect from 18th November 18, and merchant exporters were also covered under the scheme with effect from 2nd February this year 2019. So these are the steps which had already been taken up. Then you also understand the ease of doing business ranking were changed, we improved on it. Trade infrastructure for the export scheme, the TIE scheme, were also being very clearly followed. Agricultural export policy was announced, enabling products which come from agriculture also to find an export market. Then transport and marketing assistance which was given was also taken up from 5th of March. Schemes for the rebate, which is the ROSCTL, had obtained cabinet approval for the garments and particular segments within the textiles. These were the broad background of actions which had been taken till now in the last 2 years, ending till February of 19. But now what we want to do is, I will probably be putting the new measures in about 6 silos which all relate to exports. So under measures for boosting exports, I am coming up with 6 different silos. The first one is the scheme for remission of duties on taxes on export products will replace MEIS. Now I'd like to draw your attention that the name alone has not changed. It is not ROSCTL, it is not ROSL, it is remission of duties, RODTEP, remission of duties or taxes on export products. This is a new scheme which is coming, and it shall completely replace MEIS. Completely replace MEIS not just for textiles but for all goods and services for which the goods particularly for which the coverage was given both by the Textile Ministry and the Commerce Ministry. So this one will replace all MES. Existing dispensation MEIS and plus the old ROSL will continue up to December 31st, 2019. I wish this particular line is made absolutely clear. The existing dispensation in textiles, which is MEIS plus old ROSL, will continue up to December 31st, 2019. This is so because a lot of exporters probably have taken orders and they will have to be given a lead time, so we are giving this lead time. However, it equally means that post 31st December 2019, no MEIS will continue. It will only be remission of duties or taxes on export product, and that will completely replace all MEIS from 1st January 2020. So MEIS, I repeat, MEIS, particularly in the textile dispensation, MEIS plus old ROSL will continue only up to 31st December 2019. Now, textiles and all other sectors which currently enjoy incentives up to 2% over MEIS, which is already existing MEIS, over that you had 2%, will transit into RODTEP from January 1st, 2020. In effect, this new one, the RODTEP, will more than adequately incentivize exporters than the existing schemes all put together. So if we are wondering what this new scheme will do, will it be more or will it be less? Here am I making a clear statement that in effect the RODTEP, the new scheme which comes into effect from 1st January 2020 for textiles and for all other commerce related products, will more than adequately incentivize exporters than the existing schemes all put together. Revenue foregone projected is up to 50,000 crores. So that is the number which I want you to look at. Approximately we are saying up to 50,000 crores will be growing through this new RODTEP. So that's my first silo for promotion of exports, particularly for those which are going through from textiles and commerce. Very clearly, labor-intensive sectors will get priority. The next silo in boosting exports, the measures that I want to mention here are fully electronic refund module for quick and automated refund of ITC, that is the input tax credits, nearing completion and will be implemented by the end of this month itself. So by September 2019, the fully electronic refund mechanism for the GST ITC refunds will be in place. This is expected to monitor and also to speed up all ITC refunds. So there shouldn't be lockup of funds disturbing the cash flow for all the small and medium exporters, and therefore refunds on your input tax should be automated and speedy. The third silo in the measures to boost exports is about export finance. This is very important, and I understand post the Board of Trade meeting, the DGFT is here, post the Board of Trade meeting which was held a day or two ago, an indication has been given that this is under consideration. I'm glad to announce, and I thank the Commerce Ministry for having put in a lot of effort to get this through. The Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, the ECGC, will expand the scope of ECIS and will offer higher insurance cover. Here I would want to just make sure that some of the numbers can be understood. Higher insurance cover to banks lending working capital for exports. Premium incidence for MSME will be moderated suitably, which is when MSME pay their premium towards guarantee that they receive from the ECGC,
the premium that they pay will now be far lesser than what they had paid earlier. It is expected that the initiative will cost about 1,700 crores per annum for the government, but that will be the kind of support we are extending for the ECGC to offer that kind of guarantee for exporters. At the moment, for US dollar-based lending, whatever the prevailing rate be, this might come down by about 4% is our calculation, but I'm giving you a rough picture. And for the rupee, it will be coming down by about 8%. So that is the kind of difference it will make because of this facility that we are extending through the ECGC, and therefore the burden on exporters, particularly when they borrow and take credit and do their business, the burden shall come down. The credit insurance scheme, export credit insurance scheme, will benefit because of this extension of 1,700 crore per annum from the government for the promotion of credit guarantee by the ECGC. So this will enable reduction in the overall cost of export credit, including interest rates, especially to the MSMEs. The next silo is on the priority sector lending norms for export credit. These have been examined and enabling guidelines are under consideration with the RBI. We have had extensive discussion with the Reserve Bank of India on this, and they are on board. I am sure sooner they will also be able to release the necessary notification for this. This will release an additional 36,000 crores to up to 68,000 crores as export credit under priority sector, because banks use this in their basket of lending portfolios. When the priority sector lending category comes with this additional infusion, priority sector lending for export credit will increase, and this will give greater impetus for export sector. Then the next silo under measures to boost exports is the data on export finance is regularly published by the RBI. However, now export finance will be actively monitored by an interministerial working group, so that there is, hopefully, if this is going to immediately make a big difference, this might even look at it on a weekly basis. So interministerial working group is being formed, which will monitor export finance actively, and that will be located in the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce will run it, and it will also be tracked through a dashboard, reviewed with institutions, and also with active intervention being carried out where necessary. So the interministerial group will do a weekly monitoring. Export finance will be continuously checked, and also making sure the dashboard is available for everyone to see as to where the money is going and where it is getting clogged up, so that we can help remove any congestion. The next silo on export facilitation is leverage technology to reduce time to export or turnaround time. This is a very important step forward. Technology is further being used so that the initial time which is being taken the time to export that is being taken at each of the ports will come down. For an example, when we were discussing, ports like Boston take 0.55 days only for a turnaround, which is less than half a day. Shanghai takes about 0.83 days, whereas best of India, which is Kochi, takes 1.10 days. Now, we are using technology to make sure all the clearances which are required at every port, and also custom related, and elimination of all offline material, manual services will all be removed, so that quickly our turnaround time at the ports will also reach the global best. So this is a major initiative which we want to push through in this time, so that the best of performance can help in more faster clearances at the ports. An action plan to reduce time to export or the turnaround time in airports and ports benchmarked to the international standards, which is what I read out to you with the examples of Boston and Shanghai, will also be taken up, and it will be completely implemented by December 2019, which is in another 3 months' time, maximum of 2.5 months' time. Actual turnaround time will be published in real time for everyone to see, for each port and airport, to push them to improve performance. So that's going to be available for you and me to see, and we can always monitor so that there's a greater sense of competition among ports. An interministerial group again will be made accountable for this. So it's not as if we've directed people, we are just waiting for them to implement it. We shall be monitoring it through an interministerial group. And the last but a very populist and attractive option is India shall hold annual mega shopping festivals, like the way you hear in Dubai, in an organized large-scale basis, and across the country in 4 different destinations. By March 2020 it should happen. The themes shall vary. There shall be gems and jewelry, handicrafts, yoga, tourism, textiles and leather, so that there is a greater push and promotion, a global thrust for immediately for people to come and see and make their connections, make their contacts for large-scale purchases, or for instantly having ideas of connection between manufacturers and sellers. So this mega shopping festivals will enthuse all these small and medium manufacturers of our handicrafts and also who are linked with tourism to benefit from. So in order to boost exports, these are some of the main steps. The 5th silo in my case is the free trade agreements. We'd like to clearly indicate to you and through you the special FTA agreements that FTA agreement utilization mission that we want to launch. What does that indicate? We have several FTAs, and the sense whenever we interact with the industry or exporters is that they don't seem to optimally utilize the existing FTAs, leading to periodically, even you from the media have asked us, are you reviewing the FTAs? Here what we are telling you is, for an effective utilization of the FTAs, which already are with us, a senior officer from the Department of Commerce will be set up to monitor an FTA utilization mission. What would he or she do? To work exclusively with the Federation of Export Organization and with the export houses. You know, there are nearly 32 export-related associations, federations which are partly associated with the Commerce Ministry. All of them will be given a clear introduction to how to use all the concessional tariffs that exist in each of the FTA. For want of use, for want of maximum utilization of the concessional tariff which is already built in each of the FTAs, we find that many of the exporters are at a loss. Whereas when we find the other end of the FTA utilizing the features which are given, they tend to better benefit from the Indian markets, whereas our exporters, for want of link or want of awareness or want of understanding the nuance which prevails in the FTA, don't benefit so much.